As a human being, or identifying as a human being, we're really taking a look at this ascension process from a logical point of view. We're trying to understand it. We're trying to make sense of it. We're trying to wrap our head around it and create some sort of dynamic or rules or whatever as to how this whole thing unfolds, what it's all about, and what it means on a grand purpose. But I don't want you to lose sight of the fact that you are still creating all of that from your human perspective. So when we look at the ascension process and we're going through these changes and we're expanding in consciousness and we start to have these greater experiences, we get in touch with our guides, we start to have ET contact, we start to get more tapped into our intuition and all these types of things. These are all coming forward from the perspective of the human being. You're understanding it with your brain. Now, remember, your brain creates your reality. We get this electromagnetic interference pattern per se, comes in through the five senses, photons, light, sound, and the brain creates a picture of your reality. It's all happening within your brain. So everything you're perceiving is something that is being created on the fly by you based on external stimuli. Now, when we start to get in tune with something greater internally, we start to be able to bring that energy to the mix, and it affects the way we perceive our reality. Okay, something new comes forward, but know that you are still perceiving your reality from the perspective of the human, meaning you have certain limiting beliefs, certain patterns, thought patterns, subconscious beliefs and patterns and things like that, that is taking this new information and it is trying to shape it into something that it can understand. That's why people who are very religious may have experience with dense energy rising up as being something demonic or, that kind of thing. Whereas those who are not tied down to that very limited perspective have a higher perspective, they have a different perspective, and they may perceive that density as a healing opportunity and things like that. So not saying one's right, one's wrong, one's good, one's bad. That's just the fact of the matter, that we are perceiving our reality and this energy and manifesting it through the filter of being here and being human. And this applies to everything: life and death, the universe, planets, the guides, ETs, whatever you want to look at. It all comes from this perspective. So it raises a very interesting question. What is real? What is reality? When you look at the movie The Matrix, are we all plugged in to some tube? We're sitting in a tube somewhere and we're plugged in, our brain's plugged in, and we're walking around having these experiences, but we're not in fact really here. So none of it's really real. It's just a holographic projection. That's the Matrix, right? That's the theory from that. So is that possible? Yes. Is it possible that we are born here and everything we're experiencing is just a flash of consciousness and then it's gone when you die? That's possible, depending on what perspective you want to look at it from, right? Remember, your thoughts create your reality. Your limiting beliefs, your belief system, whatever it is, religion, politics, anything, creates your reality. So that's the reality that you will live by, and that's the reality that you will experience. But that could also be said for ascension as well. Are we not believing in a process of ascension? Are we not believing that we are opening up to greater realities that were unseen, that maybe lie beyond the red violet, bandwidth of light per se? Okay, so everything that resides above the chakras that are the 7 in our body, we have chakras in addition to that are outside of that reality, higher spectrums of light, things like that. Is that in fact real? Or is it a belief that we as humans are carrying? Are we trying to solve some sort of a problem within our traumas and our belief system? And ascension's opening the doorway for us to be able to do that. So I want you to think of what we're experiencing on Earth, not from the perspective of the human per se, but from the perspective of something greater, and allowing and just accepting what's unfolding. Anytime we try to put a label or a story around anything, we limit it. Okay, when we talk about the galactic wars, we're operating within a bandwidth here that a lot of us have beliefs that certain things are going to play out, certain things are happening in our galaxy, in our reality. And that's what we create. Okay. Again, that is falling within a system of beliefs. Okay. These beliefs allow us to turn our attention or our energy to something that is not normally seen in our reality and allow us to move into a field of energy that is higher than what we were previously residing on. Think of your frequency increasing, but yet there's still the mind shaping how this reality could look and how it will start to manifest. It's still being filtered through the mind. So when you ask that question, what really are we? What are we doing here? What is the purpose of this? I know we say we're here to help Gaia rise in frequency and return home. And we're here to expand in consciousness. We're here to have experiences as consciousness, to become aware of things that you couldn't become aware of on higher dimensional fields. But is that not all playing within this construct of a system or of a belief? Okay, because you may believe that that's what's happening, then you will start to experience that as happening. The mind will take electromagnetic, like I said earlier, stimuli and create in the brain an image. That's how we see what's around us, how we hear what's around us. Maybe it's not really there. Maybe it's just photons, electromagnetic bombardment, information that's coming in through these sense organs, and the brain is constructing something. And that is actually what you see. Okay, so the same thing happens when you have this higher frequency energy move through you. Because you can't necessarily see it, the brain takes energy from external to create this vision that you experience. Well, the brain could also take that energy that you can't see and create a vision with it or an experience with it based on what it knows. Okay. So everything kind of falls under that umbrella of creating a reality based on what we believe to be accurate. If you have a belief in something, that belief will manifest as accurate, regardless if it's seen or unseen. The brain will process energy. We know it has the ability, the body has the ability to pick up on energy and process that energy. And who's to say it can't do it and create visions just as real as the ones you see with your physical eyes? That's just, again, electromagnetic stimuli. So is there really a difference? Okay, so when we start to have these experiences of bilocation, or actually seeing our guides or seeing deceased loved ones, we're receiving an energetic imprint that's different maybe than we would if it were coming in through our five senses. It's coming in through another sense. It's an energetic imprint, and the brain is processing it just the same. So now you have an expanded reality right there, okay? A reality that's being created from beyond the five senses, but it's working through the human brain just the same as it would if that being were standing physically right in front of you. Is it making sense? So what I think is important is to really, really detach and try to create that space from what you think reality is, what you think ascension is. Create space. Your mind will try to limit it and make sense of it. I want you to keep that in mind. Be aware of that your mind is always going to run these new ideas through a filter. If you have a new experience, maybe a psychic type experience, your mind is going to run it through its filter and put it nicely, try to wrap a little bow around it so that you can understand what's happening. That's the stuff I think it's important to let go of a little bit and detach and allow this energy to move through us and manifest as it does without any sort of spiritual ego bias or any sort of ego bias whatsoever, because that will take this energy and it will distort it. If we are truly here to raise the frequency of the planet, we want to allow this energy to come through in a way that is unfiltered and unbiased, undistorted, unwobbled by the mind. Okay? How many times have you gone outside and seen something moving across the sky? And because you're aware that there are craft out there, your mind tells you it's a craft. Okay, so that becomes your reality. Maybe to somebody else, it's a satellite that's up there. Okay, so that's their reality. So the mind is creating the defining the experience. Okay. And I think as humans, we want to do that less, because what happens then is we take an infinite potential of possible timelines and we start to limit those timelines to unravel within a framework of what we can believe, or what our subconscious limiting beliefs are, what our programming is. Okay. And we're all struggling right now to break free from that programming. But I feel like we're fighting ourselves. We're having these individual battles with trying to take these new experiences and fit them within these subconscious limiting beliefs. So the best way to step out of that is to allow these experiences to flow and not judge them, not assign a label to them. Okay. Not commit to a definition of what's happening or a story, because that limits the experience and the expansion to what has already been known and registered within you. Okay. If something new comes through that you're not familiar with, your mind is going to try to create a familiar story with it. It's going to try to rationalize that. And that's the stuff we want to be aware of. We want to step away from that and allow this stuff to come through. We don't want to judge any of it. Allow this birthing of new earth to unfold so that we don't take it off in a tangent and end up with something that's kind of like a mixed hybrid of the old and the new. Okay. And that means fully allowing and accepting and not attaching any sort of idea or label to what comes forward. I had an experience just last night where I've had some stressful things come up in my life, and I've been struggling with them because the ego wants to try to bounce back and forth. You're good. Oh no, here's fear, fight or flight, anxiety, all that kind of stuff comes up, and you're bouncing back and forth. And that's what I was doing. Happens to me too at times. But I was laying in bed last night and I felt a tremendous shift with me as I started to get into the alpha theta brainwave state. My body started vibrating. And all of a sudden I was in this space of really no mind, no body. Okay. Been there a few times before. You all know, if you've followed me for a long time, my experience out in my backyard where I popped out of my body and had all that energy and information rushing through me. This was kind of like that, but I was in a situation where I was in this place of just being. And it really felt almost like God's hand was extending from me. It was really weird. And I was seeing this entire sphere of what I experienced maybe as a universe. Now, again, I'm trying to not put a label on it, but the human mind gets involved and tries to describe these things in human form so others can understand. The best way to describe it, and there are no words to describe it, but was just this space of being. I simply was. And all the things that maybe I was worried about a few moments before this, I was still aware of them, but none of those emotions existed anymore. They were gone. But what I saw was a sphere. And I believe that sphere really represented infinite potential timelines. And on that sphere, a part of that sphere, there was a little area that was lit up bright. And I realized that area represented my problems. And it was lit up bright because that's where my energy was going. My mind kept going back to what it perceived as problems. And I lit it up on this infinite ball of potential timelines, possibilities. And here was one little area that I was focused on. And when I was in this state of being, I was able to create that space and not be embroiled in the emotions, but be able to see how insignificant these things really are. And I was able to perceive it from an energetic perspective. I saw where my energy was going. And there was a fundamental shift within me in that moment. It was an absolutely incredible experience. And I wish that I was better able to describe it. Maybe some of you have experienced something like that. If you have, drop a comment below and share it with everyone. That would be absolutely amazing. So from that perspective, I stepped out of the human and saw a reality from a different perspective. And when I detached, that this whole experience detached me from the emotions completely. There were no emotions, but I was able to experience really what was happening on an energetic level. And that was a foundational shift in me. So we need to be open to those types of experiences. So let's stop writing stories around everything. Let's stop having expectations about why can't I communicate with my guide, or how come I can't communicate this way with my guide or that way. That is your mind trying to anchor in one of these certain realities that are a reality that's constructed on extremely limiting beliefs. We want to move away from these, we want to heal them, and we want to get into a state of allowing and accepting so we can let this new energy come forward in ways that we couldn't have imagined before. Okay? Think of it as we want to just be wide open and let this move. Let this energy move. And when we can do that, we will head towards the purest form of a new earth, of a new reality that will be anchored in love, in joy, in gratitude, because it will be whole in its frequency and in its energy, and not limited by the human mind. So I hope this video resonated with you guys. Drop a comment below, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and we will see you next time.